I would not have gone to see this movie on my own. However, I am legit astounded at how much I enjoyed this movie. I'd seen the trailer for the Bikeriders several times in theaters, and I was not interested. I'm not kidding. I had no interest to go watch this movie. I like Tom Hardy just fine. I like Austin Butler just fine. Jodie Comer, I think that's how you say her last name, Comer. I like her just fine, but the subject matter just was not interesting to me. And so I was a bit disappointed to find out that the Bikeriders was going to be the movie last night. But you guys, my goodness gracious, I am absolutely gobsmacked at how much I like this film. I'm not kidding. I love it when I go into a movie not expecting to really enjoy it and then coming out of it and really fully enjoying it. That's how I felt about Godzilla Minus One. That's why it just seared itself into my brain, and the Bikeriders has done the same. This movie is based on a book by the same name. I can't remember who the author was, but the author is shown in here as a character in the movie because it's about his time with this biker gang from Chicago. The name of the gang in this movie is called the Vandals. It's a fictional gang, but it is based on the actual gang, the biker club that this guy ran with. The name was the Outlaws. And apparently I was looking up a little bit about it because I was curious to know what was true about this movie, what wasn't. So basically this movie is kind of an amalgamation of different interviews that he had, stories that were told to him. And so the story in the Bikeriders, the literal story that you're given, it's fictional, but it is inspired by true events, true stories that the author of this book was told. It was like a photographic book or whatever. And at the end of the movie, you do see some photographs of some of the real people that he hung out with. The story follows three main characters. There is Johnny. I think Johnny's the name of Tom Hardy's character. I think Johnny's his name. If I'm incorrect, I'll put it up. I heard it often. I'm pretty sure it was Johnny, but whatever. And he is the leader of this gang. Now, let me backtrack a little bit and talk some more about the Outlaws. It was a club that was founded in 1935, but apparently it was disbanded in the 1950s when, surprisingly, most of its members became police officers. Isn't that funny? I think that's funny. And they were apparently the oldest motorcycle club in Chicago. Now, it does still actually exist, so I guess it was kind of revitalized, and it has chapters all over the world. So that's the basis for this gang called the Vandals in the story. Tom Hardy plays the guy who has started up the club. Austin Butler plays a character named Benny, and Jodie Comer plays his love interest, and her name is Kathy. Basically, the way the story is told, it's mostly told in flashback because you start off, the author / journalist, photographer, whatever, he's interviewing Kathy. And so she's telling him this story throughout the course of the movie, and it will jump back and forth. It starts off in late 60s or something, and she's telling about when she first met the biker club, when she first met Benny, and how they became a couple. And then it will jump forward a little bit more, and then she's telling more stuff that has happened in between the previous storyline. And then finally, I think it ends up in 1973, and you can see the progression of her character. Her hairstyle changes from, one era or one time frame to the next, and that was interesting. The wardrobe in here was really good. The set designs were really good. You really did feel like you were watching a story that took place in the late 60s and early 70s. The acting in here was fantastic. And something that did surprise me about this movie was that the trailer is a little bit misleading. I mentioned this in the live stream discussion I had last night with deleted scenes and off the cover. The trailer leads you to believe that Tom Hardy is the main villain of the story. He's the antagonist. He's the troublemaker. He's going to be the one that is causing trouble between Austin Butler's character and Jodie's character. That's not exactly accurate, you guys. He's not really a baddie in here, and neither is Austin Butler. Actually, the gang members themselves, or the biker club members themselves, they're not really bad people. They're just people that want to hang with each other. They have companionship with each other, in odd way, in a sort of a almost dysfunctional way, I guess. The biker club, the biker gang was like a form of group therapy for these people. Some of them were people that had come back from the war. Some of them were people that just had terrible home lives. It was pieced together throughout different conversations that you see taking place. So they're like a support group for each other. And the older gang members, like the original gang members or biker club members, I call them gang, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. The original members, they weren't really troublemakers. They didn't go out and cause trouble, but if trouble came to them, you bet your butt they're going to make it right. They're going to take action. So they weren't people that you necessarily needed to be afraid of unless you did something to them, unless you hurt one of their members. So you really do get the sense that Tom Hardy's character, he is hard when he needs to be, but he's not really about that. He just wants these group of guys. And the gang starts to grow and get a little bit out of his control because some of the younger people that are coming in, they've got totally different ideas about what it means to be part of this biker club. So that's really the basis for the story. And you just follow the storyline of these three main characters. There's the other outlying characters too. It was funny because there's a character that shows up more than halfway through, I think, or around halfway through. And I was like, wow, this guy looks really familiar. He's got some gnarly teeth. Of course, I knew they were fake, but I was like, what? That looks like Norman Reedus, but it doesn't sound like Norman Reedus. It was Norman Reedus. He was great in there. Everyone in here, like I said, they were so good. The acting, fantastic. Tom Hardy was great. Austin Butler was great. Jodie was great. I found it funny that in this movie about this biker club from Chicago, Illinois, two of the main leads were Brits. That was hilarious to me. I'm not bothered at all by it. They're fantastic actors. In an odd way, I meant to mention this early on, but I forgot. I'm wondering if part of the reason that I connected so much with this movie, and it surprised even me, was because, as I mentioned in the live stream that I had last night, as of the recording of this is Tuesday evening, my only uncle, I'm not talking about great uncles, my only uncle, he was a biker. And big, tall, scary, burly looking dude. And at his core, though, he was a really good guy. And unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. It was not his biker life that caused the end of his life. It was basically his profession, his work. He developed a lung condition, and it's been 8 years ago this past May. So I'm watching this movie, and I'm feeling this strange connection with these characters that I wouldn't normally feel connected to, because a lot of times when it comes to biker clubs, there is a negative stereotype or connotation associated with them, and they are kind of intimidating people. There are scenes where they show up at this place where something bad has happened to one of their people, and they're just out there revving their engines and the handles, and it's intimidating, it's a little bit frightening, and they have this scary look, But I was thinking that maybe one of the reasons, it's not the main reason that I connected so much with this film, because the film itself is very well made. Deleted and Off the Cover both really enjoyed this. We were all in agreement. We had no cons that we could think of to say about this film. The pacing was great. We didn't feel like there was any fat on this story. We couldn't think of anything that really needed to be taken out. There was nothing really that dragged this down. We were pulled in immediately, and it just kept our attention the whole time. While there were some moments that were kind of predictable, as a whole, this thing just worked. It worked so well. I might even bump up my rating. I rated it a solid 4 out of 5. It might bump up, and this movie's probably going to end up on my top 10 favorites for the year. But what I was trying to get around to is that I think that one of the reasons I connected so much with this movie is because in a lot of ways it reminded me of my uncle and what I knew of his life, and that fundamentally he was a good person despite the scary looking exterior, just like these men. They were actually really decent men, and they found this companionship with each other that they couldn't find anywhere else. They felt this sense of belonging, and they really cared for each other. And then more than halfway through the movie, something clicked in my brain. I finally put it together. Not necessarily put it together, just I realized the main character played by Austin Butler, his name was Benny. My uncle's name was Ben, and he was called Benny. My grandmother called him Benny. So that was kind of, oh. And something else that's funny, the love interest, her name was Kathy. My mom's name is Kathy. So it's just, okay, so in the movie they're love interests, whatever. In real life, Kathy and Ben, my Kathy and Ben are brother and sister. But it just kind of like just grabbed me right in the feels and just made me quite emotionally attached to the story and the characters, and really appreciated how excellently put together this film is. And I personally would recommend this film, even if you think it's something that might not be up your alley, just like I did. You might be pleasantly surprised to find out how much you actually are enjoying what you're watching on the screen. And so this is me giving a full-on review for the movie. A lot of times when we have these live stream discussions after the Regal Mystery movies, I don't even bother doing a review of it, but this is one of those times where I love this movie enough that I did want to do a specific video talking about it, recommending it to you guys, and I would love to hear back from you if you get around to watching it, what you thought about it. I really think this film in general is going to be largely appreciated by the people that watch it. It's not a big blockbustery movie, so I don't think it's going to make a huge splash this weekend. Unfortunately, it's just not that type of film, but I do hope that it does decently enough. Send a signal to the studios that this is the type of storytelling that we want. This is filmmaking, the wonderfulness of filmmaking storytelling at its core. Good stories, good characters, nuanced characters, interesting stuff. I love it. I'm here for it. That's why I wanted to talk about this movie. That's all I can think to say about the Bikeriders, and that's it for this one, you guys. Nos vemos.